everybody, this is Trish and welcome to Happy Holy Healthy Life. Today I want to talk to you guys about breaking free from the habit of caring what everybody thinks about you. Now, this little problem goes by many names. Some people call it approval addiction, some people call it people pleasing, some people call it codependency. I, for the ease and simplicity of language, will just call it people pleasing today. How do you break free from that? So before we get started, I'm going to ask you to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'm also going to ask you to stick toward the end all the way to tip number 10 because I have 10 tips, because tip number 10 is really important. And there were so many good tips that I had. I wasn't sure how to organize them. So if this is a problem for you, I just want you to stick in and watch the entire video. So let's go ahead and jump into number 1. You want to know why it's a problem and why you want to change. So you want to start by asking yourself, what is a lifestyle of people pleasing costing you? Now, I can attest from personal experience, it can cost you mental, emotional, and physical health. Because if you think about it, a true people pleaser is trying to make everybody happy. They're trying to make everybody like them. They're trying never to offend anyone. They're trying to have each and every person think well of them. And that is literally an impossible task. And anytime you set up an impossible task for yourself, it's going to lead to frustration, burnout, and ultimately collapse because it is something that is 100% impossible for you to do. So I like to think about something called the 80-20 rule, and 80% of people most likely will like you, but there's about 20% of people that no matter what you do will never like you. And it's really freeing to just embrace and accept that reality, because then when you do come across people every once in a while that really don't like you for whatever reason, you can just tell yourself, they're one of the 20%, but 80% of people like me. And even when you think about some people that you love, whether they're in ministry or politics or actors or singers or whoever, writers, there's always going to be people, if you read their Amazon reviews, or if you just take a poll among your friends, there's going to be people that love that person and then people that can't stand them. So even the people that we hold up in the highest regards cannot get 100% approval ratings. So it's just good to have that in the back of your mind. But more importantly, when you are living a life that is full of people pleasing, approval addiction, codependency, you are actually putting yourself in slavery to the opinions of people. And whenever you're enslaved, obviously you're lacking freedom. You're not able to relax. You're not able to be yourself. You're feeling like you constantly have to act. And even worse, sometimes wanting everybody to like you actually has the opposite effect. You could try so very hard to get everyone to like you, but then sometimes people end up thinking that you're fake or you're insincere or you're desperate, or they're just something about you that kind of rubs them the wrong way. So all of these are good reasons to get yourself out of the habit of people pleasing. And I could just talk a little bit personally about this. I gave my testimony in a video called From Bullied to Beloved. And the last video I talked about, healing from the wounds of just verbal abuse and bullying and unkind words. But I can say from personal experience, this has been a real issue of struggle in my life, and it's still very much a real daily struggle for me. I'm at the very beginning of my journey of healing. Now, I've had some breakthroughs in certain areas, but it's still something that's extremely hard for me. And that kind of leads us into the second tip here. You want to try to get at the root of why you feel compelled to people please. A lot of times people pleasing tendencies really come from deeply rooted programming that oftentimes comes from your childhood. Now, it can be something kind of lighthearted, like maybe if you're like me and you're from the South, there's just kind of a pressure to smile and be happy and be nice. Or maybe in your family of origin, you had a family member that really valued that. I remember as a little kid, my mom would say, Trish, you look so mean. You need to smile at people. You need to smile. So literally, I remember this like it was yesterday, being in the grocery store. And after, the transaction, my mom pulling me aside and just like really lecturing me that I needed to start smiling. I needed to say hello to everyone. So for as long as I can remember, when I see people, I smile, I say hi. But it's something that really literally was built into me. Who knows what my personality would have been like if I hadn't have literally been programmed to actually have these certain traits and characteristics. Now, it can also be a little bit darker. The reason why you're a people pleaser, or, you just find yourself constantly trying to make everyone happy. If you came from a dysfunctional household like I did, where maybe there was alcoholism or violence or just some kind of toxic situation, mental illness, you might have learned within yourself that, you know what, I need to remain on high alert all the time. I need to be looking around and making sure that I'm keeping everyone happy, because if I don't keep people happy, there's going to be explosions and I'm literally going to be hurt. So actually that mechanism of people pleasing and approval addiction could actually be a safety and protection and defense mechanism from your childhood. So there's just all kinds of reasons. Some people just have a friendlier disposition than other people. It could just be a personality trait. There's so many different reasons. But going back to number one, if people pleasing and caring what people think is a problem in your life, there's probably something that goes a little bit deeper there, and it just helps to have that identified, because it's going to be hard, and I'm talking hard, to unlearn those traits. Everything that comes as a part of your programming is going to scream at you, whether it's, nice girls smile, or Christians make everybody happy, or I better not show my anger because that could lead to something bad happening. All of that programming is going to run in your mind. So it's really good to be able to quickly identify that and just say, oh, that's just coming from some lesson that I learned in childhood, but it's not the truth. So know the root as best as you can about why you're doing what you're doing. And if you're not sure, you can even pray about it and just ask God and say, okay, Lord, I have this unhealthy trait. Where did it come from? And it really helps to figure out the why. Number 3, I like this one. Let Jesus be your example. So kind of related to the last one, a lot of Christians, especially Christian women, are brought up believing that a Christian woman is quiet and gentle and agreeable and never ruffles feathers and is just very delicate and just practically tiptoes or like floats around. And I think that that's a misinterpretation of scripture. So when you really look at the life of Jesus, he said no to people. Sometimes he made people wait. Sometimes the choices that he made and the things that he said disappointed people. He spoke truth to power. Wow. He went where God told him to go and not where other people wanted him to go. Sometimes he got angry. I think it's really cool that he didn't chase after people that didn't want him, and he didn't force help on people who didn't want it. And so a lot of the things that people pleasers or codependents are driven to do, thinking that they're living out the Christian lifestyle, is actually kind of living the opposite of how Jesus lived. And essentially, when we really boil it down, it looks like it's something nice to do, but essentially it turns into living a lie. You're acting happy when you're not. You're acting like you agree when you don't. You're doing things that you don't want to do. And before you know it, that can literally turn out to be most of your entire life could be getting lived out of that place. And it's a miserable way to live for sure. So number 4, you want to identify whose opinion really, really matters to you and work on letting go of the rest. Now, depending on the severity of you caring what people think, you might care what literally everyone thinks, including strangers. And that's like a very real problem that I have. Because of a lot of stuff from my past, I'm just constantly on high alert for like who's looking at me, or who do I think is listening to my conversation, or, what I'm saying and what I'm wearing and all of these things communicating to other people. And it can really get into the realm of truly crazy making. And in many ways in my own life, a lot of that has actually led to kind of a form of social anxiety, if I were to be perfectly honest. It's so much anxiety, me worrying what everybody's thinking about me in public, that for a lot of my life, I kind of just gave up on social interactions. I gave up on, going to parties, going to social events. I kind of only went where I had to, because I knew the second that I stepped into a social situation, my brain was just going to be lit up with worry about every little thing that I was doing. And so it's really good for people like me. Hopefully you don't have it as bad as I do, but for people like me, you got to figure out, maybe it's like 5 people. Who do I really, really, really care what they think? In my case, it's my husband. It is my parents still. I do still care a lot about what my parents think of me. Since I want to be employed, I care what my boss thinks about me. And there's like a few friends that I have in my life that I really do care what they think. And it really does matter to me if I'm doing something that's offending them or that's bothering them or that they're appalled by. I would want to know. But when it comes to the greater world, I personally need to continue to work on just letting those opinions go and focusing on who really, really does matter in my life. But it is a lot of work. So number 5 is you need to avoid trading extremes, and you want to strive for balance in the healthy middle. Now, what do I mean by that? If you were to imagine kind of a continuum, I picture on one extreme end, you've got severe people pleasers that care what every single person thinks and their whole life is enslaved to the opinions of others. Then on the other far end, you have people that like literally don't care about anyone. They don't care if they're rude, obnoxious, disrespectful, loud, and then there's the healthy middle. We're always striving for the healthy middle. We don't want to leave people pleasing and turn around and become absolutely obnoxious and offensive, needlessly. So if you're a true people pleaser, you will probably not make that extreme jump. But I think some people in their lives, because they just got so fed up with people pleasing, they went to the other extreme and just said, to heck with whatever people say. I'm literally going to do and say whatever I want at all times. And that might create other problems for you. So you want to strive for a healthy balance in the middle where you do care to an appropriate level what the people that really matter to you in your life think. You do care to an appropriate level the people that are around you, that you're not being offensive or disrespectful. But on the other end, you're not catering your entire life around the opinions of others. And you know that sometimes to do the right thing is actually going to equal making people upset. And that's something that's really difficult for a true people pleaser. All right, so going to the next one, number 6, it's take small steps and know that it will be messy. So since I've actively been trying to work on this in my life, I, have already made a couple of small messes. And it is messy to try to navigate, especially with people that know you, how to start saying no or how to start kind of speaking up for yourself. And sometimes you might go a little overboard to the left or to the right and kind of mess things up. So I'll try to give you a generic enough example that literally happened to me, like, I want to say it was last week. So something happened at work where I felt like somebody was asking me something that was unreasonable. And I felt like by them asking me to do this task that I thought was unreasonable, that it actually stopped me from doing some things that I really, really needed to take care of. And it turns out later, I realized that somebody else had miscommunicated with me. So I was completely misunderstanding the task to begin with, but it doesn't matter. I was trying to flex that muscle a little bit of kind of speaking up for myself and saying, you know what, I'm not able to do this. Is it possible that, this or this could happen? And it turned out to be a huge disaster. The person that I told this to communicated to my supervisor, and they marched up to me and told me that I needed to have it done by the end of the day. And I felt like kind of blew up. And I was just kind of like, great. This is why I like being a people pleaser. If I would have just said, yeah, sure, I'll have that done for you, I wouldn't have gotten to this whole situation. But at the same time, it's something that you've got to just kind of work on. And sometimes people will get upset. Sometimes they're so used to you saying yes that they might, boom, try to like knock you back into your own place. But those are the risks that you have to take as you're growing and as you're progressing in this life. And if somebody truly knows your heart and they love you, they're going to have grace with you as you try to navigate getting out of the people-pleasing habit. But if they didn't like you to begin with and they were looking for something wrong with you to begin with, then, that'll kind of reveal itself as you stop being the person that says yes to everything. For what it's worth, so just know that sometimes it's messy and sometimes there's a little bit of pain on the front end to get to the victory, in the future. All right, so number 7 is work on your self-confidence and your identity in Christ. And I talked a bit about this in my last video about overcoming bullying and hurtful words that people have said. But the more that you know who God says you are, the more that you like and accept who you are, the more you welcome kind-hearted, loving people in your life that embrace you for who you are, the less what other people think will matter. But if you're really insecure within yourself, you're really unsure of yourself, you're not even sure if you like yourself, if you have a bunch of kind of sketchy people in your life that are not building you up, and if you're walking and living in guilt and condemnation, thinking that God's about to swat you with a cosmic fly swatter, then you're going to be much more of a kind of a victim to the mean things that other people say or think about you. So as you continue to work on your confidence, you're going to find that some of that anxiety is kind of naturally going to drift away. All right, number 8 is reject perfectionism and don't take yourself too seriously. This is something that I have really had a lot of trouble with in my life because due to unique circumstances such as being severely and brutally bullied as a young person in my formative years, I became hyper conscious of any kind of mistakes. So I was made fun of a ton about my looks, a ton about my appearance. So that made me hyper vigilant about my appearance to the effect that ever since I was in 6th grade, I was pretty much wearing a full face of makeup. I was like, if I'm truly like an ugly person, then I've got to cover up all of that and I've got to try to look as perfect as possible all the time. It got to the point where I couldn't even leave the house without makeup on. So that's like a very extreme example, but that's that perfectionism speaking because of pain from my past. Same thing with my personality because, people kind of made fun of me and thought I was kind of annoying or weird. Then I kind of told myself, okay, I'll be really nice and really sweet and really agreeable, and I'll try to just mold myself to what everybody wants. But when you really think about it again, there's no magic recipe to make people like you. I thought if I can be as pretty as possible and as nice as possible and as agreeable as possible, then I would give people literally no reason not to like me. But it turns out that not everybody likes pretty, agreeable, nice people. Just kidding. But you know what I mean, though. It can really turn into something where you have a standard of perfection in your head, and every mistake you make, you beat yourself up over it. And I still battle this today. When I force myself into a social situation, which is still kind of hard, and I feel like I say something stupid, I'll still have a tendency to replay that, but I have to actively remind myself that no, it's okay. It's okay to be a little awkward. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to not be perfect. And in a way, it's kind of okay to not take yourself so seriously. Number 9 is more of a tip than anything. It's being yourself. You're going to attract people in your life that love and accept the real you. Whereas if you're constantly trying to kind of be a chameleon and mold yourself to everybody's thoughts and expectations, you're going to maybe find yourself filled with people that you feel like they don't really know you, they don't really value you, they don't really treasure you. And at the worst end of the spectrum, you might end up feeling like you've attracted people in your life that only use you. They might, use you at work to do tasks that they don't want to have to do themselves. You might have family members that are constantly asking you for money and asking you to babysit kids. And, you can just end up drawing a bunch of like using kind of people into your life. Whereas if you're just yourself, you kind of stand in your own truth, you know who you are. And when people don't like you, it's like, goodbye. You can kind of let them go on their own way. And it's going to end up bringing people in your life that you feel really seen and known by. Now, number 10 is super important. And I feel like it's kind of the bow on the entire presence, of this video, okay? So you want to trust God with your image and trust that He will give you favor where you need it. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of Bible verses that talk about the fear of man, and it talks about how it brings a trap and it brings a snare. And what really happens is you're either putting your faith and trust in humans, men and women, to get you the places that you want to get, to, go to the heights that you want to go, to have love and have all of these things, or you're trusting in God for it. And when you are trusting in man, then you are enslaved to man. Whereas when you're trusting in God, He has a supernatural ability to give you favor with the people that you need to have favor with. So for example, I'm just going to make this a made up example. If you're in a workplace where there's like a lot of cattiness and backbiting and gossip and rudeness, and you feel a ton of pressure to like make everybody happy and kind of work your social connections and your network, You could say, you know what, no, I'm done with all of that. Like, I'm a Christian, I'm not going to gossip, I'm not going to, pretend to agree with what these mean people are saying, whatever it cost me. But you know what, as you're obeying God, he might give you supernatural favor with your boss, where your boss loves you for you. They appreciate you and they value you, and every other mean, catty person in your office might like hate your guts because you're not going along with their program. But look, you have the favor that you need to get where God has you going. Does that kind of make sense? I hope it does. It all comes back to, again, just really trusting God with your image. And I believe, especially this is really relevant for Christian people, because, I feel like as the world gets crazier and as we near the end times, if you believe that, I do, Christians are going to be persecuted more. People are going to make fun of them more. Our ideas and our beliefs are going to come under fire more. And there's going to be a real temptation to lean into the crowd and to water down what we believe and to water down who we are so that we can avoid being made fun of. But that is just the path of destruction, and that's the path that leads to not fulfilling our destiny. So I hope some of these things encouraged you today, and I hope that they made sense. I would love to keep talking about this topic because I really am passionate about the topic of identity and freedom and relationships and all of that good stuff. So if you have any ideas that I can talk about, I would love for you to comment them below. If you struggle with people pleasing or found some tips that helped you, I would love for you to comment that below. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye for now.